Imagine standing in a room full of people, yet feeling as though you are miles away from the nearest human soul. It is a quiet, suffocating ache that most of us have felt at least once. But what if I told you that this invisible weight isn't just an emotional burden? What if I told you that it is physically reshaping your anatomy? In fact, studies indicate that the health impact of long-term social isolation is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes every single day. It is a staggering comparison, one that forces us to reconcile the reality that our need for connection is as fundamental to our biological survival as the air we breathe. Before we delve into the science behind this silent epidemic, please understand that this content is for informational purposes only and does not replace professional medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare provider for personal health concerns, especially if you are feeling overwhelmed. We find ourselves living in the most hyperconnected era in human history, yet we are simultaneously drifting into a profound state of disconnection. Why does the absence of a familiar voice or a steady hand trigger a cascade of inflammation within our veins? Medical professionals recommend we look closely at how our internal chemistry shifts when we are left alone for too long. We are not just talking about sadness here. We are talking about a systemic breakdown that puts immense, unrelenting pressure on the very muscle that keeps us alive, the heart. The question we must confront is how a subjective feeling, loneliness, transforms into a quantifiable, clinical pathology. Is it possible that the cure for some of our most persistent cardiovascular ailments isn't found in a pill bottle, but in the people we choose to keep close? We are moving beyond the surface of emotional health and stepping into the intricate, often startling mechanics of the heart, starting with the hidden triggers that begin the moment you feel truly alone. The silence of a room often masks a cacophony occurring within your arteries. When the human brain perceives a persistent lack of connection, it triggers an ancient, primal alarm system designed for survival in hostile environments. Research suggests that chronic loneliness acts as a potent biological stressor, forcing the body into a perpetual state of fight or flight. This hypervigilance commands the sympathetic nervous system to release a surge of catecholamines, chemicals like adrenaline and cortisol, which flood the bloodstream with unrelenting intensity. As these stress hormones saturate your system, they signal the bone marrow to accelerate the production of immature, pro-inflammatory monocytes. Studies indicate that this systemic shift fundamentally alters your internal chemistry, transforming your immune system into a source of internal friction. Instead of guarding against external pathogens, your white blood cells begin to promote inflammation along the delicate endothelial lining of your blood vessels. Over time, this microscopic agitation creates the perfect conditions for plaque accumulation, narrowing the pathways through which life-sustaining oxygen travels. Your heart, once a rhythmic engine of vitality, now labors against the tide of chemical resistance. The constant presence of these inflammatory markers weakens the structural integrity of your arterial walls, making them brittle and prone to catastrophic failure. It is a quiet, cellular erosion that occurs without a single outward symptom, turning the absence of human touch into a physical weight pressing against your coronary health. This isn't merely a metaphor for a broken heart, it is a measurable, molecular degradation of the cardiovascular architecture. We are witnessing the biology of isolation, where the absence of a social safety net translates directly into the presence of biological vulnerability. The body, deprived of the calming influence of companionship, loses its ability to regulate the very pressures that keep our circulation fluid and clear. As we trace this path from the nervous system to the heart, the link between who we are with and how long we live becomes impossible to ignore. But what happens when this internal alarm refuses to shut off, even when you are surrounded by people? The silence of a solitary room can echo louder than the bustle of a crowded street, especially for those whose social structures have quietly eroded over time. Research suggests that the elderly face a unique physiological vulnerability, as the transition into retirement or the loss of long-term partners strips away the consistent, soothing presence of a witness to their daily lives. Without these anchors, the nervous system remains in a state of hypervigilance, perpetually scanning for threats that never materialize. This is not merely a matter of feeling blue, it is a fundamental shift in biological equilibrium. Studies indicate that individuals trapped in the unrelenting, high-stress grind of hyperurban environments often suffer a similar fate, albeit for different reasons. In cities where anonymity is the norm, the brain struggles to distinguish between the physical proximity of millions and the genuine, restorative connection of a community. The body responds to this perceived abandonment by flooding the bloodstream with cortisol and norepinephrine, hormones designed for short-term survival but lethal when left to simmer over decades. These chemical surges tighten blood vessels and elevate resting heart rates, turning the cardiovascular system into a pressure cooker of chronic agitation. Even when surrounded by faces on a subway or colleagues in an office, the heart can perceive a profound, isolating void if those interactions lack depth or trust. This internal dissonance creates a loneliness in a crowd phenomenon, where the mismatch between desired and actual social contact keeps the fight-or-flight mechanism permanently engaged. Over time, this biological friction wears down the arterial walls and strains the heart muscle, transforming an emotional state into a physical pathology. We are hardwired for tribal interdependence, and when that tether snaps, the heart is the first organ to register the distress signal. While we often think of heart health in terms of diet and exercise, the true architecture of our longevity is built upon the quality of our quietest moments. But if our environment is the architect of our isolation, can we ever truly calibrate our biology to heal, or are we prisoners of our own geography? The silence of a solitary room can echo louder than the bustle of a crowded street, especially for those whose social structures have quietly eroded over time. The silence of isolation is not merely an absence of conversation, it is a physiological alarm system ringing in the dark. Pay close attention to the red flags your brain is waving. You might notice your resting heart rate climbing, a persistent, unearned acceleration that mirrors the hypervigilance of an animal cornered in the wild. These are not just numbers on a monitor, they are the physical manifestations of a nervous system stuck in a permanent state of fight or flight, waiting for a safety that never arrives. When we retreat, the brain's threat detection centers become hypersensitive. You may find yourself interpreting neutral social cues as hostile, or feeling a profound, bone-deep exhaustion that sleep cannot cure. But here is the truth that cuts through the fog: your biology is not a prison. It is a mirror. Healing begins with the recognition that your heart is not malfunctioning, it is reacting to an environment that has starved it of its primary nutrient, belonging. Reaching out, even in the smallest of ways, acts as a biological sedative, lowering cortisol levels and steadying the erratic rhythm of a lonely heart. You are not destined to remain a prisoner of your own isolation. This content is for informational purposes only. Please consult a doctor for health concerns. You deserve to feel connected, seen, and supported. Share this video with someone you haven't spoken to in a while. Sometimes, a simple hello is the strongest medicine of all.